Chapter 25, Section 4 is about Sri Lanka and the Maldives, which are those island nations off the coast of India. Um, while they're beautiful, tropical like islands with gorgeous landscapes, they're both having a lot of trouble, especially in Sri Lanka with the civil war. So even though it looks like paradise, they're having some issues with a lot of their different minorities. This is a picture of some of the atolls in the Maldives. The Maldives are made up of thousands of islands, and they're gorgeous. I mean, when we talk about this being a paradise, it totally does. I mean, look at that water and look at the plains. There's so much tourism that could be taking place that's not because of the dangers here. So we kind of need to wonder, what's going on and what's going on. Sri Lanka is that bigger teardrop-shaped island. In the 500s, a lot of Indians crossed over the strait to Sri Lanka, and they became the Sinhalese. In the 300s, the Tamils, some of those Dravidian Hindus, that got kicked out of India, settled over there in the northern part. So you kind of have the Sinhalese people and then the Tamil people, and they're not getting along so well. Then over the years, the Portuguese and the Dutch came and traded there and set up little shops and communities. And then the British came in 1796, and they changed the name to Ceylon. This island gained independence in 1948, right after India, and it turned into Sri Lanka in 1972. However, there's a lot of tension between the two groups of people, the Sinhalese and the Tamils. The Tamils want an independent state, and there's a civil war between them, and the Tamils are called the Tamil Tigers, and today it's still dangerous. Anthony Bourdain did a really neat episode on Sri Lanka, how beautiful it is and everything, yet at this gorgeous 5-star hotel, there were armed guards walking around and hardly any tourists. So it's still quite a dangerous place today, and you'll hear about it every once in a while. Now, the Maldives have a primarily Muslim country. They're ruled by a sultan, which is kind of like a king, a Muslim king. And they declared themselves independent in 1968 as a republic, and they have elected presidents. There's about 1,200 islands and a population of about 300,000. It's one of the smallest independent countries in the world. Now, looking at this slide, we can kind of see that Sri Lanka has some issues. They've got 75% of them are Sinhalese Buddhist people, 18% are Tamil Hindus, and then 7% are Muslim. The Sinhalese live in the south, west, and central, and the Muslims live in the east, and the Tamils are in the northern part. Their capital is Colombo, and most of the Sri Lankans live in small towns and villages. If you know who Nigel Barker is, he is one of Tyra Banks' friends, and he is on that show, America's Next Top Model. His mother is from Sri Lanka, so he was kind of raised there. If you know that, maybe just take that little tidbit of info. And in the Maldives, the Sinhalese and Dravidians mix with Arab and Asian traders, and so they really have this just blended culture. This is a picture of one of the rock formations on Sri Lanka. There is some farming. You'll see there's a little bit of farming and some livestock roaming around, and then on the edges there's beautiful beaches and everything like that. However, their cultural disagreements are kind of getting in the way of their society. Now, looking at this map, world tea production, India is the highest and Sri Lanka is third in the world. So Sri Lanka is doing pretty good for itself, especially when you consider how small it is compared to India. They have rice farms, they grow tea, rubber, and coconut. They're getting some more manufacturing, and they're really famous for their sapphires and rubies and topaz, so gemstones, kind of like India. And they're smaller. Even though they have that kind of civil war going on, there has been some investing going on there. The Maldives, it's a bunch of teeny tiny little islands, so there's not a whole lot of farming, so they have to buy their food from other countries. However, seafood and fishing is a big part of their culture and their economy. And now they're starting to get into tourism. People are starting to go there and enjoy those fantastic beaches. So if you get a chance, you can probably find that Anthony Bourdain video on Sri Lanka. Anthony is kind of rude, and so you'd have to ask your parents to watch it. But he did an episode there, and it talked about how tourism in Sri Lanka was great until the 1980s, and their war has damaged their infrastructure. It's interrupted some of their business, and it's not a nice, peaceful place. It's not really even that safe to go. It's getting better, and the question is, is it good enough to go on vacation there or not? The Maldives, they're having issues with global warming. Their islands are atolls, or just basically built on coral reefs that have grown above the water and seeded and filled in. If the water of the ocean levels rise too much, they could get kind of flooded out, and some people are really worried about that for them.